Welcome to the Water Channel podcast, a series of conversations on water, food, agriculture, and environmental sustainability. We feature stories and talks that reflect our present and are shaping our future. This is Long Wang from Meta Meta. My pleasure to host our podcast of today. In this episode, we will talk about circular economy or circularity in general. Circular economy is a model of production and consumption which involved sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing and recycling of materials and products. This helps to keep the energy and materials within the production and consumption chains for as long as possible. Circular economy is a rather new concept, but it already attracts a lot of business and political attention. In March 2020, the European Union released a new Circular Economy Action Plan under the European Green Deal. Circular economy is seen by the EU as a key to reach a wide range of EU's environmental and sustainability targets. Not only in Europe, other countries and world regions are also picking up circular economy as a promising lead to reach the sustainability goals. For instance, Bangladesh is also looking into possibilities of applying circular water management, including reusing wastewater in its urbanizing delta. We will hear more about all these exciting initiatives in this episode. Today, we are pleased to welcome an expert and a good friend of the Water Channel from Bangladesh, Dr. Kamonashish Haldar. Kamonashish is currently a postdoc researcher at the EWU. This is an alliance of TU Eindhoven, Wageningen University, Utrecht University, and UMC Utrecht. They are working together to accelerate circular economy transition in the Netherlands. He is also a co-founder of Delta Research Initiative, a research and consultancy organization active in the Bengal Delta. Just earlier this month, you successfully defended your PhD on urban water reuse in the Bengal Delta. Once again, my congratulations to this great achievement and pleased to have you here with us, Kamonashish.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Kamonashish, on the personal side, how do you feel about now as a fresh doctor?
Well, I think I feel relieved and responsible at the same time. Relieved that it was a long journey. I spent 4 years on this, so that's done. It feels good. Responsible because now I have to continue in this field with scientific integrity and contribute towards the sustainability transition of the societies around the world.
And so you move onto the field of circular economy with your research career. This is a rather new concept that recently emerged. Could you please explain this concept to our audience?
Well, circular economy is not a new concept. It has been there. It had different forms, different names actually. So far what happened, we just produced some products, we used it, when it's done, we just discarded it. But that is not sustainable, so that's not good for the earth. So instead of just directly discarding them, we should try to think whether we could reuse them, whether we could recover some important materials from that, whether we could refurbish it so that it can be reused by someone else. So in that way, you are emitting less, so you are polluting less, so that is more sustainable, and that's the way you should go.
We have been talking about all these 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle for quite a long time in terms of waste management, in terms of environmental management. Are we repackaging things into a new, more fancy name?
Well, we should not say repackaging, because science evolves every day. So we should say we are redefining the process itself, because we're learning new things every day. We are learning about how materials could be recovered, how some products could be reused, if there are any risk, how that could be managed so that it could be used in a safer way. So we are learning new things, and it's important because we should not just rush to make a decision that we are just going to use everything or reuse everything. So I'm not going to say we're repackaging. We should say redefining the process itself.
Yeah. And what do you find personally exciting about this new redefinition, this new development of the concept to solve the problems?
So I think so far a lot of initiatives have been dealt by government, by organizations, but individuals should also play a role. So, for example, from a household perspective, if you want to buy a product, you can also rethink it whether you really need that product or not. Then you can also explore whether you can get a refurbished one. So that means that when you are not buying a new product, so that means you are extending the life cycle of that particular product itself. So in this way, we are trying to also combine the efforts at an individual level, but also at a collective level as well. So it's a joint effort. So I think that is more important to address issues such as circular economy.
Yeah. I would like to go a little more into your postdoc. What are the key scientific questions that you are trying to address?
So if you look at a system, you always see two elements. One is the hard element, so that is the built environment itself, so the infrastructures, the materials and everything. And then there is also soft part, so that is the policy, the rules, the regulations, the inclusiveness and everything. So whenever you try to address an issue, so it has to be addressed from the both point of view. Technology can solve things, but it will not be 100% successful unless if you back it up with proper policy and regulations. So that is what we also want to do from our alliance as well. So we want to combine these two so that we can contribute towards the issue in a collective way.
Thank you. Yeah, very interesting. And so, in this part of the world in particular, circular economy is gaining an increasing weight on the policy and the development agenda, both at the national and the EU level. The government of the Netherlands, for example, have designed a roadmap to aim at the goal of turning the Dutch economy to completely circular by 2050. That is not too far from now. What is the motivation, and do you think this is a feasible goal?
So first thing first is if you want to achieve something, you need to set a goal. You need to set a vision. So that is more important. So Netherlands has set a goal that they want to be 100% circular by 2050. So the first step is done. Then the next step is to design how we can get there. And as I said before, it should be a joint effort. It has to be from individual level, but also from a collective level. If we all can contribute towards that, I think that is possible.
Yeah. And on the technological side, I'm curious on the technical side, whether that is attainable. I mean, I understand that the commitment and the determination of the government, of the policy making bodies, and of the individuals are very important, but at the same time, technically, if something is feasible is a different question. Having looked at the technologies around this theme for a long time, what is your take on this?
Technology is important, that's for sure. But we should not let technology alone solve everything. As I said, this is one of the most important to me, that we should not just wait technology to solve all the problems that we have. We need to take initiatives from individual level as well. Technology is there to help us. So if we take a step, if we want to make a change, technology can contribute to that. So technology is an integral part, but individual actions are also important to look at.
Yeah, yeah, I very much agree with that. And about the EWU Research Alliance, this looks like a very interesting team with a technical university. You have a medical university on board, and Wageningen being a multidisciplinary university. So could you please tell us a bit about the idea behind this alliance and what does this alliance aim to achieve?
The idea of the alliance of these four different institutes is to challenge new generation of researchers and also students to cooperate across discipline without any prior limitations. This could be done by challenging ourselves to allow researchers to take a unconventional approach if necessary to enable scientific breakthrough. In a nutshell, the four institutes cooperate in a cross-disciplinary way in the fields. So I can give you an example. So for example, Technical University Eindhoven, they excels in the field of technology, artificial intelligence. UR is a world leader in agro-food, water, energy nexus. Utrecht University, they are prominent in interdisciplinary research, and UMC is one of the leading academic medical center. So if all of us could bring our expertise, and if we can complement each other where it is needed, then that can make a really big difference. So that means we can address any topic from a different perspective because we have expertise, in-house expertise as well. So then we can bring all of them together and contribute towards the challenges. So that is what we want to do. Currently, we are aiming to conduct research. We want to facilitate researchers so that from different institutions they can conduct research together. We are also aiming to provide education. So that means if one of the students is taking courses in Wageningen, he or she should be able to take courses in Utrecht or Eindhoven. Same goes for other institutes as well. So in this way we can break the barriers. So that means this can also be a way to learn from each other as well. So this is what we want to achieve. And as you know that Netherlands wants to become circular. So we also want to, as a knowledge institute, we also want to contribute towards that agenda as well.
Yeah, and about this, because it's a very diverse teams, and I can imagine that each team member would have a different focus on, for example, the sector or the industry. What would be the sectoral focus of the alliance? Where do you want to make an impact?
So, for example, I can talk about the working group that I belong. It's called Circular Society. So, under that platform, we have two different hubs. So, one is Circular Hospital, and one is Inclusive City. So, at the hospital levels, we are trying to look how we can reduce the disposables, how we can make medication green, how can we make the building designs more environmental friendly. At the same time, from the Hub 2, we're also looking into the inclusiveness, how people can be included in the decision-making process, how rules and regulations could contribute towards creating a circular society. So we are trying to combine different elements so that it fits together and gives us a collective decision.
So, Kamonashish, after hearing from you about the principles, which are very interesting, I would love to hear a specific example from a sector that you could think of to, illustrate circularity.
Well, there are plenty of examples I can think of, but to be more precise, for example, we use water in households. So we extract groundwater, we use it, then we discard it. So then we don't know where it goes. But actually, if you can collect it, if you treat it proper ways, it can be reused in different sectors. For example, you can reuse it in agriculture, it can be used in industrial purposes. So there are a lot of possibilities within the framework of circular economy.
So now we are touching on another domain of expertise of yours. Let's take a closer look in the water sector in relation to circular economy. This is also the key topic of your PhD research. You have a beautiful PhD thesis in terms of the design, but also in terms of the content itself. It says, urban water reuse in the Bengal Delta, prospects, challenges, and socio-technical solutions. Could you give us a very brief overview of the thesis, of the work, and what you have found in your PhD?
Yeah. So, Yeah, that's the title of my PhD. I finished it from the Department of Environmental Technology, Wageningen University, and research recently. So I used the term urban water, so that combines grey water, so that's coming from your kitchen actually, um, and surface runoff. Um, there is also black water, so that means that is used in the toilet, but that is not considered as urban water because of the quality variations and everything. So in my thesis, we tried to examine whether this urban water could contribute in irrigation. And when we looked into it quantitatively, the water is there. So it's possible to supply the amount of water that you need. But there are challenges in terms of quality, because right now water is not treated. So it is discharged into the rivers. So that means quality would not be optimum for irrigation. And if you use that water, it can also lead to several health issues, especially for farmers. Also, looking into the policies and regulations, this is, in the case of Bangladesh, is not yet clear enough whether this water could be used. And last but not the least, the infrastructure itself, because that also needs to be looked at before you really plan something like this.
Yeah, and it's a little counterintuitive, to be honest, when I think about reusing urban water in Bangladesh for agriculture, because um, why would you look in cities as a source of water instead of looking in the main rivers or elsewhere to supply water for agriculture?
Yes, so as you also have some experience with Bangladesh, you know that the salinity, especially in the dry season, is increasing. So that means that farmers who used to irrigate their fields with this river water cannot use it anymore because of the salinity itself. That's number one. Number two, uh, Bangladesh is doing well economically. So that means there is a lot of economic and industrial activities that are taking place. So that means um, the pollution level is increasing. So coming back to the point that then why we're looking into it, because the natural sources that we had that are no longer available to be used for irrigation. So that's why we need to look alternative sources. Now you can also say, then why don't we look into groundwater? But you also know that groundwater level is also going down in Bangladesh as well. So that is also not an ideal situation. So then you need to look what are the other alternatives. And looking into that, urban water seems to be a viable solution to address the current challenge.
Interesting. If you look into the technical side, I'm curious what are the options to reuse urban water in Bangladesh and in Guna in particular?
So, for example, in my thesis, we looked whether we could reuse urban water in the peri-urban agriculture. So we tried to see what is the irrigation demand in the peri-urban area, and then we tried to match it with the urban water that is being generated in the cities. So to be honest, when you look season-wise, the seasonal demand was 7 million cubic meter, and the supply, the potential supply, that was 8 million cubic meter. If you could collect water from the whole year, then it would be like 50 million cubic meter. So that means it's almost 7 times more than what you need. But you also know that Bangladesh, it has 3 different seasons, which out of that, 2 is rain-fed. So you only need irrigation for 1 season. So actually, if you can collect that water, then you can also extend your irrigation area from peri-urban even to close to the rural areas. So that can also have a huge impact on the production as well. So looking quantitatively, there are a lot of possibilities, but as I said before, you still need to look into other aspects before we really take this as a viable solution.
Yeah, and I can imagine that there are two other aspects at least that we need to think of, especially in our part of the world. The perception of using wastewater is not a very conducive one. How would you comment on this, and did you experience anything that can help addressing this?
Well, right now you are using water in the household. You're just releasing it in the nearby canals or rivers. So farmers are using that water. So actually, you are indirectly using wastewater, whether you know it or not, but you are already doing it. So what we are saying here that if you do it in a planned way, so that means if you collect it and treat it properly, so that means there are quality standards, then it can be an added value to the current production system. And coming back to the perception, so the the area that I worked is one of the most climate vulnerable area in the Bangladesh. People are aware of the climate change impact because they already know that it's getting really difficult to access to water. So for them, it looks like a really good solution. So so we have this proverb: necessity is the father of invention. So that means when resources are getting scarce, then you don't have too many options. So I think that also contributes to this kind of perception.
Yeah, thank you. On the technical side, what kind of technologies are there to reuse, to treat this water?
Um, so in my thesis, we also tried to come up with four different scenarios. So this is what I should not do. I should not just name some technologies and just say like use this and every problem will be solved. This is not what I want to do. So what kind of technological solution is needed? It has to be based on, so for example, what is the existing quality? What is the quality requirement you want? What kind of policy or regulatory framework you have that you have to follow. Based on that, you can find out different kind of technology. There are the nature-based technology that you can use. There are biological and chemical-based technology that you can use. So technologically, there are a lot of possibilities, but it all has to depend on what is your end goal and how you want to do it.
Connecting back to the theme of circular economy, one of the things that I see being pushed very strong is that we try to privatize and commercialize all the different business models, because otherwise things would not work. In the context of Bangladesh and in the context of urban water reuse, to what extent it is possible to have business models with urban water reuse and how to push for that?
Well, for example, still the supply of water collection and treatment is still handled by the government organizations. So it's a responsibility of the government to ensure that people have supply of water. Uh, but there are also autonomous bodies for that. So that means they are responsible for their own revenue generation, also expenses. So, for example, if wastewater treatment plants are collecting wastewater and charging people for that, that should be an option to cover the cost as well. So, there were times when different organizations run on government subsidies, but I think this is also changing in our countries. I think we see a lot of example in neighboring countries as well. So the previous way of dealing to certain problem is changing, and it will change in the coming days as well.
Do you think farmers in Guna or in Bangladesh in general would be willing to pay to get the recycled water to irrigate their dry season crop?
That's an interesting question. So, uh, farmers are already spending money to get the water. So, because they need to arrange a pump, they need to buy fuel, they need to buy a pipe so that the water can be brought to their field. But as water is polluted right now, they do not have any say in that. So, they cannot go and ask authorities for better quality water. So, if there was a mechanism where quality could be improved, and then I think farmers would be also willing to pay a little bit more to get better quality water. So I think it's all about whether there is a proper mechanism to it. I'm not saying that we should charge farmers for that. There should be also a framework to look at that the marginalized farmers are not being pushed away from their occupation as well. But I think we should make sure that water quality becomes higher so that it can be used properly for farming.
Yeah. Looking at the quality side, what do you need to take care of with the wastewater if it is to be used for irrigating crops?
It also depends on what kind of crops you're producing. So that's one thing. Second thing is, so when you look at water quality, there are different water quality parameters as well. For agriculture, it's mostly related to salt. So that needs to be tackled first. And also, there are different elements as well that you can look into. So it can be heavy metal, it can be micropollutants and everything. But it all relates to what kind of production you're doing, and what is your aim, what is your end goal as well. Mostly for now, it's only related to salts in water.
Kamonashish, apart from working on your scientific work, you also started a business called Delta Research Initiative, and you are one of the co-founders. Could you introduce and tell us a bit about what is Delta Research Initiative about?
Yes, so along with my other colleagues, we co-founded Delta Research Initiative in Kulna. Our vision is to provide a platform to conduct research and provide consultancy services for sustainable delta management. So currently we are implementing several research projects together with some other colleagues from the Netherlands and also Vietnam and also other areas. So we have several projects focusing on climate information services in Bangladesh as well. So as I said, it's a new organization, so we are always looking for opportunities to collaborate and find new areas to work on. Future is looking good, I hope.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. There's still plenty of space for companies with the different ideas and a vision to make something different with quality. So how do you position circular economy within the business activities of Delta Research Initiative?
Circular economy is really a big topic, and it covers a lot of issues. You know that Bangladesh recently formulated Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100. I think Vietnam also has it, Mekong Delta Plan, and Netherlands also has it. So there are a lot of initiatives that are mentioned, a lot of strategies that are mentioned are related to circular economy, either through reuse of water or recycling of products or recovering valuable resources. So all these initiatives needs to be handled from an individual level but also a collective level. So I think the organizations like Delta Research Initiatives, we could contribute. So for example, we are going to conduct research, we are going to implement different projects as well. We can provide education either to students or to professionals as well. So whatever the initiatives that are taken within the framework of circular economy, it will also contribute towards the implementation of the Delta Plan. So I think all the organizations that are working in not only in Kulna but also in Bangladesh, all their collective effort could contribute towards the implementation of circular economy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kamonashish. This will be very much appreciated by the audience of the channel. I would like to thank you very much for your time spending with us, and would like to wish you a lot of health in your research career, a lot of success.
Thank you, Long, for inviting me.